Everyday English Podcast
by English Talking Today.
Well, hello there everyone, and welcome back to English Talking Today. I'm Mary, and today we're going to talk about something I think is incredibly important, something that holds back so many brilliant English learners, and that is confidence. We're going to discuss why your English is probably much better than you think it is, why you need to stop talking down about your skills, and what you can actually do to boost that confidence and get better at speaking. This is something I've seen over and over again in my years of teaching and interacting with English learners from all over the world. Let's dive right into the core of the issue. Your English is better than you think. I can't stress this enough. So many students I've worked with, especially those who come to me for private classes or conversation practice, always start the first session by saying, "My English is terrible," or "I'm a beginner," or "I'm not confident." Then, within minutes, they are speaking in clear, coherent sentences, using a decent range of vocabulary, and holding a complex discussion. The gap between their self-perception and their actual ability is huge. It's almost a universal problem among non-native speakers. You believe your English is worse than it really is, and that lack of confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't speak because you lack confidence, and because you don't speak. You don't improve your speaking, and the cycle continues. I've often had to stop a student mid-sentence and say, "Wait, what did you just say? You just perfectly explained a complicated economic concept in English. Why do you think your English is bad?" They rarely have a good answer. It's just what they feel. You need to challenge that feeling with the reality of what you can actually do. Now, a lot of people worry that being confident will make them seem arrogant. This is a massive cultural trap, and we need to break free from it. Confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance is believing you are superior to others. Confidence is believing in your own capabilities. There is a huge difference. Being confident in your English means you celebrate your achievements. You can watch a YouTube video without subtitles and understand 90%. That's a huge win. You can order food in a restaurant without freezing up. That's progress. Not talking down about yourself is a sign of healthy self-esteem, not arrogance. Stop starting every English conversation with an apology for your English. Just speak. Say, "I'm still learning, but I'm excited to practice," instead of, "I'm sorry, my English is terrible." The mindset shift is everything. I want to address another common misclassification, the beginner label. If you can hold a simple, basic conversation in English, I am here to tell you that you are probably not a beginner. Stop calling yourself one. A true beginner is someone who is learning the absolute basics. Hi, how are you? Cat, dog, book, table. They can't yet string together a sentence to explain where they live or what they do for work. If you can communicate your needs, express an opinion, or talk about a recent event, you are, at the very least, an intermediate learner, regardless of what some online test or textbook says. That beginner label is a mental roadblock. If you keep telling yourself you're a beginner, you subconsciously set your expectations for yourself too low. Take off the training wheels and acknowledge your real level. For example, if you are able to understand this very podcast episode without too much trouble, you are absolutely not a beginner. So, let's talk about the key to actually improving your English speaking ability. It's simple, but it's hard for people to accept. The key to improvement is speaking. The reason so many students say they don't speak English well is because they are literally not speaking. You can study grammar rules, watch videos, and read books until you're blue in the face, but if the act of pushing air out of your lungs and forming English sounds doesn't happen, your speaking won't improve. It's like trying to get better at playing the piano by only reading sheet music. You have to sit down and hit the keys. You have to do the thing you want to get better at. If your goal is to speak more fluently and confidently, you must actually speak a lot. The great news is that you can do a surprising amount of this alone. I would estimate you can do about 90% of your speaking practice all by yourself by using the internet and being a little creative. You don't need a conversation partner 24/7. Here are a few practical methods. First, the most popular, shadow speaking. Listen to a native speaker, maybe on a YouTube video or a podcast like this one, and try to repeat what they say exactly the way they say it, matching the intonation and the speed. Second, and this is my personal favorite, talk to yourself. Narrate your life. As you are washing the dishes, say out loud in English, I am washing the dishes. I need to get the sponge. This water is too hot. If you are watching a scene in a movie, pause it and explain to yourself, out loud, what just happened and why the character is feeling that way. Use your phone to record yourself. Speaking to yourself this way builds muscle memory and helps you retrieve vocabulary instantly. The remaining 10% of your practice should be dedicated to engaging in actual conversation with another person, ideally a native speaker or a very advanced non-native speaker. This is where platforms like italki.com come in. I highly recommend taking a few dedicated conversation classes there. You can find excellent native speakers for very reasonable prices, and that real time, back and forth interaction is crucial for practicing listening and quick replies. I've even included a discount link in the description for you guys to check it out. You need both types of practice, the high volume of solo practice and the targeted, real-world conversation. Now, I want to pivot to something that makes the whole confidence problem worse, and that's what I call the cultural discrepancy or the unfair standard. It's a double standard, and it's something I see all the time, particularly in countries where English is widely learned. Let's compare two groups, those learning English and native English speakers, or gringos, learning another language, like Spanish. When someone from, say, Latin America is learning English, they are often expected to know it. They are rarely complimented for their English ability, even if it's excellent. In fact, many people who are perfectly fluent still feel a deep lack of confidence in their English, always focusing on the small mistakes they make. They're held to an incredibly high, almost native level standard. Contrast this with the gringos learning Spanish. They are often extremely confident, sometimes overly so, and they frequently overestimate their actual Spanish level. But more importantly, the moment a native Spanish speaker hears a gringo speak even very mediocre, basic, broken Spanish, they are immediately showered with compliments. Whoa! Your Spanish is so good. You speak so fast. Where did you learn? They are put on a pedestal for speaking what is, objectively, pretty poor Spanish. This disparity is unfair and it reinforces the English learner's lack of confidence. The English learner, who can hold a complex conversation, gets silence and self-doubt. The Spanish learner, who can barely order a taco, gets a standing ovation. So, what do we do about this? We need to consciously change our behavior. First, if you are a native speaker or a very fluent non-native speaker, do not be so quick to compliment foreigners' mediocre language skills just because they made an effort. A simple "I understand you, that's great" is fine, but stop giving a performance review for every basic attempt. This over-complimenting, while well-intentioned, is patronizing and skews the perspective. Second, and most importantly for all of you learning English, give yourself and your fellow English learners the love, compliments, and appreciation that gringos receive for their Spanish. If you are proud of yourself for correctly using the past perfect tense, tell yourself that. If your friend nails a presentation in English, tell them how impressive they were. Stop waiting for external validation. You need to become your own biggest cheerleader. If you wouldn't tell a friend their English is terrible, why are you telling yourself that? Finally, let's briefly discuss the role of listening and your learning resources. I know that for many of you watching this, listening comprehension is actually your strength. You can understand a lot more than you can produce. That's totally normal. But I want to offer a bit of advice on resource selection. In my experience, for improving listening, YouTube videos are generally an easier and a recommended #1 tool than movies. While movies are great, they are often difficult because they involve fast, overlapping dialogue, a lot of slang, and background noise. A monologue is almost always easier to follow than a quick, back-and-forth dialogue. Also, when someone is explaining a specific topic, like in a YouTube tutorial, a documentary, or this podcast, the language is usually clearer, the pace is more measured, and the context is laid out for you. It's structured. Quick, conversational exchanges like you find in a sitcom or drama are much harder to process. So, don't feel like you have to struggle through a fast-paced Hollywood movie with no subtitles to prove your worth. Start with videos explaining a topic you love, like history, cooking, or gaming. That exposure to clear, purposeful English will train your ear much more effectively. To wrap up this entire discussion, you have to stop sabotaging yourself. You have spent countless hours learning this beautiful, complicated, global language. You can communicate across cultures. That is a massive achievement. Stop calling yourself a beginner. Stop apologizing for your English. You are capable. The only way forward is to embrace the process, speak as often as you can even if it's just yourself in the mirror, and most importantly, be confident. Confidence is the fuel that turns your knowledge into real-world communication. Your English is good enough right now to start speaking more. Don't wait for perfection, because you'll be waiting forever. Start speaking today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell notification to get new video. I'll see you all next time on English Talking Today.